Hey everyone, I'm Wa.
And I'm Chris, and welcome to Docu Sweeties.
We're two longtime friends who discuss the riveting and sometimes trashy world of reality TV and docuseries.
Yes, but through our own lens, which can be a little peppery, a little salty, a little sugary. At the end of the day, because all that sugar, it'll be some sweetness at the end. Hi! We are here to give you Harry and Meghan. It's episode 5.
Yeah, no titles, so
Yeah.
there's no way for us to know the theme of the episode, so we just have to go from there, you know?
I
It'll
mean,
give
the
us
theme is love, honey. The theme, love wins, love, 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 love. The whole, I mean, it's Harry and love. It's love and love. That's what the docuseries should be called. Love and
yeah.
love docuseries. But here we are. It starts with little baby Archie running through that corn maze, honey. Like, I don't know where the corn maze is. Is it on their property, their beautiful property, honey? Is it like they found a corn maze in the middle? I mean, I'm not quite sure, but
I think they're in Canada, no? No, I don't know.
yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Is it on the property in Canada, or is it like one of the Canadian corn mazes? You know, the famous Canadian corn mazes are everywhere.
The famous Canadian corn mazes. What if that was Canada's things, like Canada?
Canada.
It was Canada's thing. They're like, welcome to Canada, home of the corn maze.
Welcome to Canada. Come for the, lovely people staying for the corn mazes. And you will stay because you'll get lost in one. You'll have to literally stay in Canada. That's why they're famous. Okay,
So
anyway.
we've got this segment where we're again showing how their family has grown. Archie's a little bit older, and all they want to do is just have a normal ass rich person's life, you know?
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Which is what I want too, Which is what I want too. I love how rich they're just like, yeah, they just want to be rich. What's wrong? They want to be rich. They want to be mildly famous and a lot of famous and rich. It's fine. They want to be safe, rich, and famous. Now, here's the thing. We all deserve to be safe.
Yep. I can't say it more. I think that's the one thing that pissed me off. Like, that's not the one. One of the things that pissed me off about this whole thing. So they're realizing Meghan's saying that all she's ever wanted was a big, happy family. And she's been feeling really alone. So there's been no palace support. And not only has there been no palace support, the palace has actually been throwing them to the wolves in the way that they did to guess who? Princess Diana's, the people's princess.
Yeah.
And so after the wedding, her father started this media tour and it was super embarrassing. So the royals were like, yeah, go ahead and manage that. So she sends a letter to her dad and she sends it knowing that it could be intercepted. And so there is this sense of like, I'm going to send this to my dad, but I'm also going to know that this could be out in a boot. So I have to be very particular with how I speak and what I say, but also get my point across. And so
yeah, she sends it to her business manager, who then sends a certified letter to where they are in Mexico City, because she's like, I can't just like put his name and like put it in the postal mail. So she tries to get it to him, but she has no relationship with him. So like, she looks at the signature when it's delivered, and it's not her dad's signature. So immediately when she sends the letter, she knows that it never gets to him or whatever,
And that's so crazy. That's such a movie thing to happen. I never hear in real life how people and the mail just gets intercepted. It just seems like such an untouchable right. For you to pay money for a letter to get somewhere and then somebody signs for it that means that somebody was corrupted. And I'm just like, how much would I as a post person take in order to do this? And the truth is like, I don't know what the postal system is like in Mexico City. I don't know who delivered it. I don't know what service did it. But I'm like, how much would somebody have to pay me to just like, instead of handing it to the person, just leaving it on the doorstep and then just like scribbling a thing? You know what I'm saying?
Well, not even that, babe. All you would have to do is be like, I thought it was Meghan Markle's dad. I got that signature. You don't even have to not. You just
how
have
much
to,
do you think they got paid? How much do you think they got paid?
Oh, I'm just gonna say maybe like 5,000.
Okay, and yeah, I guess I would do for 5,000 too.
So, basically, they're like, we have to sue. Meghan and Harry are like, oh my god, that's crazy. Like, you can't just, obviously publish my like personal letters. We're gonna sue you. But the palace is like, nah, like like that's our buddies, and also like B, like it just like creates a mess, or we don't want to do it, or that's not what we do things here. Which is very intrusive for her. She doesn't understand why. But then she's also being subjected to seeing stories like, oh, Meghan Markle made Kate Middleton cry, which was a thing story that supposedly happened during the wedding time. That supposedly during Harry and Meghan's wedding, there was some ruckus, there was some whatever dumb argument between two sister-in-laws over the flower girl's dress, which was Charlotte's dress. Supposedly, this is allegedly what it was about. And someone made someone cry or whatever, and it was like a hot topic. And then what ended up happening was Megan would go on to then to clarify, not only is that a wrong story, and not only did I not make her cry, in fact, she made me cry, and the next morning she came apologize and gave me flowers. So there's like that's what that story is. By the way, but and then any at the end of the day, that just seems like a normal ass thing that happens around, high stress situations and family environments. Like yeah, you get upset, you make passive, judgments, competition, judgments, all of that stuff like exists in like normal families. And unfortunately, they're just being made to be big ass deals because of media and other people involved. Well,
Yeah, it's so interesting that this narrative gets pushed out as though it's like such fantastical news about the royals. And like we all know now that do Kate and Meghan even hang out? So did they have this conversation in person where Meghan was like, "No, she can't wear that dress." And even so, it's her wedding. If she wants Charlotte to wear a different dress, what does it matter? So it's just like all so dumb anyways. It just feels like so stupid. So Harry and Meghan get outside counsel to go after the big bad media to get that letter taken down, because also what they do is when they post the letter, they redact so much stuff that creates an entire different story. So it's like somebody went through that letter and was like, how can I create a new
letter.
And
Yeah.
so they just go through and they just like, dear dad, I love you, redact. I am very sad at the way you published my name. Redact, I am sad, and put why did you publish my name? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like they've just created an entire new story, an entire new flow of that conversation because they've redacted so much that probably had context and gave context. Monique, that's how you use the word context, gave context to the letter. And so when like during this time they didn't end up spending Christmas with the Queen, and we have more footage every time they show a footage of Harry with black bars around him. I'm just like, why didn't somebody flip it? Because there is footage in this docuseries where I know that the footage was filmed the wrong way and they flipped it, because you can flip it. I just hate it. I just hate this whole thing where it's like, let's put the black bar, let's keep the black bar because it makes Harry seem like a real person.
Yeah. No, I know there is that. They use a picture twice where they've done that. Where I was like, why you already use this picture? We already saw like this picture in this way. Like now you're gonna get like that was only like 4 seconds ago. I don't know. Anyway, yes.
So they go to Vancouver Island, which is where they film one of my favorite shows called Alone.
Okay.
And so they go to Vancouver Island, which is notoriously like a very cold place and it's hard to get to, but it's for the rich as well as the people who are on this reality show who, because it's very treacherous terrain in certain parts. So they decide to start a plan of how they're going to separate themselves slowly from their royal duties. And so they go, what if we move to Canada? So they go and do it, and they decide to kind of pull back from taxpayer funding so that the things that they do don't get judged. So the royals at some point approved or supported them moving to South Africa, but then that got leaked that it was going to happen, so they then decided to scratch South Africa, and then Canada ended up being the place.
Yes, which is of course part of the Commonwealth. And they were like, look, we wanted to be in service of the Queen. We just don't want to be in London proper. Like, it's a fucking nightmare. There's like media everywhere. There's all those people there. Like, can we just go to Canada and just have a little like space in between the media and then still do your bidding or whatever? But also, Harry is very cognizant of the fact that the royal family gets money from the people. And because I'm not British, but because the British people pay for the royals, they feel entitled to knowledge about the royals. And there is this idea of the service to the queen and getting paid to do so. And so Harry's like, it's either has to be all or nothing. Like, we have to pay for ourselves. Like, and that is the way to get out from under either the media's ownership of me and or my father's grip, which is another part of this, which is like, in a way that Succession, like that kind of show, not necessarily royal people, but money can control people, and especially when you have a patriarch or matriarch with a lot of money, and the ways, and this is exactly like Succession, it feels like Succession, I guess, but whatever, when people are on the salary that their dad pays. So I there's a certain amount of control that you have to relinquish if someone pays for your whole life, like, so listen, William, we know, is going to be the king. So like, he like check and check, you know what I'm saying? Like, he fucking has to, but like, Harry doesn't have to, like, in a sense of, Harry is there. And this is why it's very interesting that he titled his upcoming autobiography memoir Spare, because he's in line to be king if and only if that comes because the people that are really going to be king aren't king.
Yeah.
And his entire life and calling and or his work, although I feel like he enjoys some of it, feels, I think, not important. Somewhat like, it could be Prince Andrew that's doing it, but because Prince Andrew is an asshole pedophile rapist, like, Harry, gets to do whatever. It's like, it's just the royal duties being ambassadors to the Commonwealth, and you just kind of like are a little ceremonial doily that moves from different country that you shouldn't own to different countries that you shouldn't own. But
Yeah.
that's what it is. Now, the biggest part for me is that he starts to also portray the archaic nature of the monarchy, which is a true statement. And how, in fact, and we've discussed this before, the idea of a divine rule being like what is just the unspoken monarchy for the rest of civilization, when we as a culture, community, world has changed, is bananas. And how long it will last is not known, but it's just like, it is, to me, because it is your family and your brother and your dad, quite interesting for you to make that statement in that documentary. I mean, it's just like otherworldly to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like nobody believes that God put you guys on here to rule. So there's that. So there's all this talk about where they're going to live and how they're going to kind of slowly pull away. They still want to do their duties, but they don't want to be in London, as Chris said. So supposedly this blindsided the queen, whereas from Harry's point of view, he had plans to hang out with her, and then all of a sudden she's like, "I'm busy." And not she, her representatives, right? So they're not directly talking to each other. They're not picking up the phone and talking to Granny. It's that's not what's occurring. And so it's just very sad that, like, in his mind he's going to go hang out with his grandmother, and then all of a sudden her aides tell her it's not a good look, and because she spent her entire reign doing what her aides tell her to do, and she's also the oldest person on the planet, so she doesn't know, like, she's like, "Oh, you're telling me that Harry cannot come to see me, and I guess you must be correct, because you're put here by the divine and the monarchy for the Commonwealth of England." Like, so she's just like, okay, they're not gonna hang out with my grandchild or my great grandchild. And so then Megan leaves, and then they try to speak to Harry without her. So while
Yeah.
she's around, they don't want to talk to Harry. It's when she's gone that they try to, like, have these conversations with him, and it's specifically planned when she's not in the room. So then apparently the brothers scream and shout at each other, and then the father says things that are not true while Granny is just sitting there, and they try to make it seem like she doesn't care about the institution. One thing that sticks out to me the most in some parts of this documentary, especially when we have Harry solo on screen, is that his lips are incredibly chapped.
You know what? I agree. And here's the thing is it's happening to me as we speak, my lips are so chapped. My lips have been chapped for the past 2 weeks. A, it must be that I'm dehydrated because I keep drinking so much wine. And also B, the like it's the dryness from heat, you know? But you really need to drink some electrolytes and some water in your life. So get on it, Harry. And also try the lip mask, a lip mask. Lineage has a great one.
Just
So
so dry lipped. So at some point the royals create a statement that Harry is not aware of, and that's the final straw. So he decides to walk away from his duties 100%. It's referred to as Megxit, and everyone blames Meghan.
yeah, and Megan says it this way. She's like, look, whenever in life you have like a bunch of bros hanging out, and one bro just like meets a girl, and then suddenly he like wants to hang out with the girl, and all the other friends are like, fucking his girlfriend's just like, come in here, she's so dumb, and just takes us away from our fun video games and beer nights. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, that's like what that's like what she feels like happened. I will say this. I don't think it's bad for them to want to have a conversation with Harry without Megan there. That's her family. That's his family. His brother and his dad and his grandmother could have a conversation with him without his wife there. That doesn't seem weird to me. Now he can choose to enact or not act until he talks to his wife. But because they want to have a conversation with him without his wife, I found that to be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, also, I want to say like that pinpointed something to me that also is something else that will come up. There's also a story that when Kate Middleton was pregnant, that and before they were married, that Meghan and Kate were hanging out, and Meghan made a joke or talked about or made reference to baby brain, how maybe Kate had forgotten something or got confused about something, and how maybe hormonally she was experiencing that. Now, this would come out later, and Kate would take great offense to it. And how it was like, we're not that close enough for you to talk about my like body and my hormones to that way. And to me, these to me seem like cultural differences between the extreme formality of British culture, and not just the formality of British culture, but the extreme formality of royal British culture and Americans. It's a casualness. I mean, there is a casualness to Americans, the way we discuss things, the way that we eat, the way that we talk with our. I mean, it is very fucking different. So to, it felt like cultural differences, like in the American British way. And again, also, it's not just British, it's high level fucking British, you
Yeah.
know? Anyway, so continue on.
So then all of a sudden these accounts are made on Twitter, and it's highly orchestrated when the group of people who investigated go through it, and they find out that one of the people is actually Megan's sister, the one who's the shithead who like started the whole.
Samantha.
Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden they are middle-aged white women, and they recruited them and was like, hey, here's how you create 2 extra accounts. Here's how you do it. And we just need you to talk about Megan and retweet things. And Megan, I just like 12 accounts. How does your sister have 12 accounts against you? It's like wild. So one of the accounts is like Megan needs to die, is what they end up start saying. So it's like it goes from, it's weird how people can just get caught up in such a kerfuffle when it comes to something that has literally nothing or no bearing on their personal life, to then say that this person needs to die. So it was just wild. But on their exit that
Well, can I
last
say
week.
something?
Mhm.
I want to say something about that. It's very interesting. They said that only 88 accounts were responsible for having a reach of 17 million people. That an orchestrated hacker that you could do VPN things. That's why I'm like, it can't just be white middle-aged women. They're not smart. And I mean, how many hacker white? It was a very confusing thing they said. I think that there were people that orchestrated this and then got just some random. There's like the people that are making money from the bad press, YouTube videos and stuff. And there's the people that are just tweeting because they hate people. Now, the tweet hate is a whole thing that happens like in the 90-day world, like, or any other world of like on Instagram, you can really go in and see people just rip people apart from fake accounts. It's like the underbelly of human psychology that as an escape or as a way to like vent It's like you can go on and get out the hateful anger in your heart. It feels like some weird, I don't know, some weird, like, just psychology, like psycho thing that people do because they're unhappy in their lives. And so somehow they like habit form, go into a fake account and leave angry messages everywhere. It's psychotic. But anyway, so finding that was very interesting for them, and it also, I think, just cemented in them that they're dealing with hate and she's dealing with the mental anguish from that. But she's also realizing that when she's out and about, people are loving at her, like loving towards her. That sometimes her actual experience of people and the appreciation that people have for her is like different from all what she hears. So I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, like I just think it's so weird, the hiding behind the fake account and the desire to want to break somebody down in that way. Her last week, as royals officially, she just wore all the color in the world because she was like, listen, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out looking good. And I feel like that is a very black person thing to do. Um,
What was your favorite outfit? Do you remember that? I loved there was this blue. Okay, she wore no red. Okay, this is my favorite outfit in that. If you remember this Rolodex, and I wish we had it for you. It's our own fault. She had this like red cape thing where it was like shouldered here and cape, and then the dress underneath. That was so chic and God. I just saw that up, and I was like, honey, give it to me.
I like the green one she wore.
Yeah,
That one was really stunning to me.
yeah.
Um, so on the plane as they're leaving, which I was like, are you guys not flying private? I don't understand. Anytime we talk about going on a plane, I'm like, is this plane not private? How are you guys just getting on a regular ass American like airlines? Like how is that happening? Anyway, so she on the plane, the flight attendant thanked her for, like, being the people's princess. And then we start to get this montage of how Meghan looks like most of the people in the Commonwealth. And I was like, the people of color? Y'all think y'all think she looks like them? So interesting. I mean, maybe the times when she had her hair like curly, but I don't know. Anyways, Meghan is very white passing to me. And maybe I don't know what that is truly, but that is what I get from her. So when people were like, "Oh, she looked like us," I was like, black people will stretch a thing, and I'm like, she don't look like me. So there's that. And so it kind of felt like the royals were passing on a huge opportunity to step into the 21st century or the 22nd or whatever century we are. They missed a huge opportunity to use the one drop racist rule to to solidify themselves in the world as an open, non-white, crabby institution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's like, what are our symbols? Are we inclusive? And then they show Belize, and I was like, yes. Whenever somebody tells me, I'm like, my father is from a Commonwealth. Like, so I very much know it.
Wait, who's
There's a
William?
picture.
Oh, they said William and Belize. I see.
Yeah.
This the one. Wait, is this the one where are they happy about it or bad? No, this is okay. So this is what they say. Sorry, I want to make sure this is. I think it's the one. They're talking about how awkward it is for the white royal members of the family to go to these places because it's like there's just a bunch of people that don't look like them, and they're just like, "Hi, welcome to our place that you stole from." It's like it's very fucking awkward in this century. So is this one of the ones where did Belize welcome William and Kate, or was there backlash, or was it one of the ones? Remember how they said like someone canceled one because it was so awkward?
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Okay,
But it's not that it didn't happen. I'm not saying you're
okay,
wrong. I watched this like 3 weeks ago, so I
okay.
don't remember. But I thought I don't remember it being a negative thing. I just thought he was in Belize. But overall, Belizeans are okay with not overall, but like I've never heard any negative things about the monarchy from my Belizean folk. So their departure felt like the death of a dream, someone says. And in March 2020, Harry gets on another Black Bar video and talks about how there are people in their driveway because the royal family, like absolute assholes, pull back on security from H&M. And then COVID hits, and then they're about to close the border. So now everybody knows where they live. I mean, not me, I didn't care. But people know where they live in Vancouver, and they have removed security. And I thought to myself, could you have not just used a little bit of the family's own money to pay for security for them for at least 2 months until they had a time to properly vet. Like, how is it that you just leave them to the fucking wolves? I mean, there are people who are like Johnny Depp has security. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are celebrities have security because it is necessary. And now
What
you've put a royal in the world where people know where their location is available, and you have just removed their security and they have a small child. It's like you don't give a fuck.
they are notoriously cheap. They are notoriously cheap, and they are also only too happy to have the British people pay for every one of their expenses, even though they're multimillionaires. And so that's one thing. B, we're going to also get juxtaposed footage of when Diana was thrown to the wolves and how different it was not being protected. And the C thing is Kris Jenner wouldn't even do this to Scott Disick. Kris Jenner would have Scott Disick fly private and have like security. And Scott Disick is not anything but like a baby daddy of like one of the lesser known girls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is crazy that like the king and the queen would take away their security, and it's, I think, under the just the guise of the British, of wanting the British people to be like, well, they're not going to work for us, then we don't give them any money. And yeah, you're right. Instead of being like, well, we'll just pay for it, like they didn't.
Yeah, they have money. The queen has her
Yeah,
own money in her own little pocketbook that she could use. They didn't have to use people's money. And
yeah,
they could have just let those people stay on, pay them from a different payroll. I don't know, figure it out and allow them to vet. I mean, because there's just like certain things that rich people need. There's certain things that folk and of a certain caliber
ugh,
require in order to sustain a happy life. And like
speak on
we
it.
can all, huh?
Tell me more.
Like there's just things that they need. Like, listen, if I
Hmm.
were somebody who had a lot of money and I was used to doing a certain amount of facials and like, okay, let
Hmm.
me just bring it down to my lower middle class
That's
status.
fine.
I go and get waxed.
Hmm.
I get my toes done. I get my nails done. I get my eyebrows done. That probably cost me $200 a month. I don't know how much it costs, but that probably cost me that much, right? So if all of a sudden you were to take everything from me, there are certain things that I would be able to live without, but then there are certain things that I'm like, it feels cruel to just take that thing away because
Hmm.
like that is the thing that makes me feel the most relaxed. That is my me time. That makes me feel like a lady. That makes me feel like this. That makes me feel like that. So like I get it, but that I'm talking about stupid things that don't change my life. They took away their protection. And that's where I was like, "Oh, they are assholes." So whatever happens after this, it's like y'all put us in danger on purpose and now you get nothing from me.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh,
it was
that's
terrible.
how you feel like that. Okay, so you're saying you get nothing from me. Is that you, Wah, saying that they get no sympathy from you, or do you
Yeah,
mean
no,
like?
I don't care about the royals at all. I think they're assholes. Like I think like the whole entire institution needs to be taken down. So here's like it needs to be taken down. Like that was such a terrible, mean move to do. Like I gave a bad analogy using like my beauty stuff. That's not a good analogy, but do you get what I'm saying? Like that is a necessity. It seems like silly, but there's a very clear and present danger when you've done that because there are people in this world who want these folks to die.
Yeah, and that's your family, and
Yeah.
you're rich.
Yeah.
There's so many. There's like it's just, yeah, it is fucked up. He got 13 million from his inheritance from his mother.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Um, God, why do I feel like I start not every, but I always, in this podcast, I've been like, oh, I don't know a lot about the royals, but I feel like I maybe know more information than I thought. Anyway, so but then since I've been, of course, watching this documentary, and since Spare has come out, there has been just so much news that's riddled right now. Like The annoying thing for me now is, like, I kinda wanna read that Spare, like, is that what the documentary like, now I'm just like, "Well, I guess I am invested." He talks about how it does feel like his life, especially at the end, one of their last engagements was going to church, and he talks about how it just feels like a soap opera. Like, I was just gonna go to church on the last day and see what things were like, or whatever. Or maybe I'm talking about his dad's funeral or the grandfather's funeral. Anyway, but it's like we are watching when they are together, we are watching a family have to be together that now we know for sure do not like each other.
Mhm, mhm.
Up until this documentary, I thought that Harry and William were like somewhat pals, like British blokes together. Like maybe they had they traveled the world together. I thought they had like been in combat together, and so maybe like they also like I thought they were super close. I was wrong.
Yeah, they do talk about how they were, but I also wonder, when is it that you get your own team? Like, when does that happen? Because that's when the separation occurs. Is when you get a team of people to manage your look, to manage your statements, to manage your press. So whenever that happens, I think that changes, because we see a lot of footage of Diana trying to give them the most normal life that she can muster, and the folks just not giving an F about it. Anyways, you guys, we got one more episode to go. Where we leave off with them is that they don't know what they're going to do because the borders are about to close and they're about to get stuck in Canada without any support. Right as COVID is people are like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I remember this time in my life very vividly about not knowing what was going on. And then, like, there's a freeway behind my parents' house, and that freeway going from like zoom, zoom, zoom all day, every day, to like one or two cars for months. So like this is something that we are all very, very aware of as I think as a culture, world, global society. All right, so we'll talk about uh sorry.
We will talk about episode 6 next. We are so super excited to do that, because we gave it to you. We gave you, honey, 6 episodes of a docuseries. This might be the longest docuseries we've done. Most docuseries we do are like 3 or 4 Z's warsies. So, um, however, having said that, no stop there. We have Killer Sally coming up next. And of course, we've been doing 90 Day Fiance. And if you're in that world, honey, we're about to talk about Tell All Part 2. And then, of course, Part 3 and Part 4. Part what? Part 1's, of course, already up. And we've been doing Love After Lockup. So lots on the docket. Other than that, we couldn't love you more. If you want to see our faces, you absolutely can. Follow us on social media. We are DocuSweeties on Instagram, DocuSweeties on TikTok, and DocuSweeties1 on Twitter. We also have this cool thing, where
called
they can yeah.
called Patreon. So you could join us on Patreon at patreon.com/DocuSweeties, where you could see the visuals of what you are listening to right now. We also do a first Monday of the month live and that's exclusive to Patreon. So yeah, I mean, Patreon right now has, our Killer Sally episodes and the podcast doesn't. So we want you guys to go and join us on Patreon. It helps to support us, support what we do. It's $10 a month, and you get some exclusive content. And the more people we get, the more specific exclusive content we can provide y'all. Lots of great trash TV coming up. So join us for all the things that we have in this month and next month. And we will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.